Hey guys, so now is the time for me to share my four-leaf clover story. So back when I was in college, I had signed up for this really challenging physics class. It was advanced molecular physics or something like that. And it was an accelerated class over the summer. So it was a 6-week class that in a normal semester would be however many weeks are in a semester, I don't know, 16, 18, whatever it is. And so the second week we had a midterm, the fourth week we had a midterm, and the 6th week we had our final exam. You really couldn't miss a class or you would be lost and gone forever. So I was taking that class, and I also was asked by my church to be a state camp director. Right at the same time, the camp was going to be a week, and I would have had to miss one of my physics classes. But I said yes. Figured while I went to camp, I would spend my time in my tent studying and just get everybody set up every day and periodically check in and make sure all the activities were going smoothly and everything was going as planned. But when I got there and I saw the girls and I saw everybody had needs and different things were happening that they had questions for me, I didn't really get into my tent so much. And when I did, I just kept thinking I should go check on what's happening out of the tent. So basically, I didn't really study at all. The week went on. I was kind of stressed, but I also wanted to give my full attention to the girls. So the plan was then I was going to leave the camp a day early to go home and take my physics midterm. Well, I did leave early. Right before I left, and we set it up so that someone was going to take over for me for the last day of running the camp. So everything was going to be, you know, hopefully a smooth transition, which I think it was. I just felt a lot of guilt leaving the girls and leaving the camp, and I'm not a quitter, and I kind of felt like somehow I was like quitting in a way. It just didn't feel right. They were having fun. I felt like they needed me or wanted me to be there at least. Maybe didn't need me, but right before I left, a girl had found a 4-leaf clover, and it kind of became the camp celebrity. Everybody was taking turns taking pictures with the 4-leaf clover. Once the one girl found a 4-leaf clover, everybody was looking for 4-leaf clovers. And as I was about to get in the car to leave camp, the girls called me over and they're like, just take a picture with us in the 4-leaf clover before you go. So I took a picture with them. If I find it, I'll insert it here. I don't know that I'm gonna find it because it was a while ago and I don't know where those pictures went. But I took a picture with the girls with the 4-leaf clover and then got in the car and made a 4+ hour drive home. The next morning, early in the morning, I went on to take my physics exam. Now I didn't even think I would get credit unless they gave credit to put your name on the paper. Really, literally knew nothing. And as I was walking to take my test, I started apologizing to God, and this heaviness and weight came over me. I felt like I let God down because I left the girls at camp, and I felt like I left God down because I didn't study for my test. I just started apologizing for everything, for all of the choices I made. Apologizing to God that I knew I was about to do really bad on the test. I started thinking about the happiest moment I had that week when I was with the girls with the 4-leaf clover, and I was thinking and praying to God, I just wish I was with the girls right now, still looking for 4-leaf clovers. Suddenly I heard a voice say, "Look." And I looked down and there was a 4-leaf clover. And I felt like that was God telling me that He knew me, He knew my heart, and He knew my prayer, and He was aware of what I was thinking, and that He wasn't mad at me. I was so grateful for it. I picked it up and I continued walking towards my test. Now at this time, my mom had been going through, I don't know, I don't remember what was the trial of the moment, but I remember there were some things, and I do remember something was going on with her car and she was having a really bad week, and I thought to myself as I was walking and kind of in amazement that God had given me this 4-leaf clover, I should give it to her because maybe it would make her feel like God was hearing her and aware of her trials too. So I kept walking and I said, I'm gonna give her my 4-leaf clover. And then I thought, I do wish I had one for myself though, too. And then I heard the voice again say, look. And I looked where I felt I knew where I needed to look the moment I heard look. But I looked again and there was a second 4-leaf clover. And I picked it up and I could not believe that God gave me not one but 2 miracles. He proved it twice that he heard me. And I was so grateful for that. And I went in to take my test looking probably extremely superstitious with 2 4-leaf clovers placed one on each side of the desk. I think that test was the worst grade I got in college. But anyway, it was bad. And God didn't just hand me the answers to the test. I had to face my consequences of my actions. But 2 weeks went by. A lot had happened in between those 2 weeks. I was dating someone at the time who had had a stroke in the past, and they thought he had another one. So he was going in for a CAT scan on the day of my next big test. As I was walking to take the test again, the same feeling of not having done enough or been enough came over me, knowing that I did not catch up on the physics information that was cumulative. So I just knew I wasn't going to be doing well on this next test. And also thinking that my boyfriend was in the hospital about to be getting a CAT scan and he was super scared of what they might find. They thought maybe he had like a brain tumor that was causing the issues. And I felt so guilty that I wasn't there for him that moment that I was taking a test. Felt so guilty that I didn't catch up on the physics work. I was thinking back on 2 weeks earlier when I was walking to take the test, feeling the same way. Remembering how God had blessed me with a 4-leaf clover, 2 4-leaf clovers really. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to give him my 4-leaf clover so that he'll know that God is watching over him too and knows his heart and the things going on with him. And just for a moment, I let the thought sneak in that I wish I had one for myself, but I felt I couldn't say it again. I had already given one away that God gave me, and now I was about to give away the second one, and I couldn't ask for another one. And it did just slip through my brain for the millisecond. And I heard the voice say again, look. And I shook my head. And I said no. I think I said no out loud. And I walked and I said, there's no way that God would do this 3 times for me. And I got probably 20, maybe 30 feet away. And I stopped and I said to myself, what if this is God? Who am I to deny him from giving me a blessing? And then I thought to myself, how would I even find what that voice just said to look for? and I turned around, and from where I was standing, which was a considerable distance, I could see the four-leaf clover and the blades of grass surrounding it. I do not have the best of vision to see like that. I've never seen like that before. And I thought, this must be what it feels like to be a hawk. I don't know, but my eyes stayed fixed on it, and I walked up and I pulled it up from the ground, and then I fell on my knees and I thanked God. And then I stopped myself for a second and I said, what if this is a science school? What if there's like freak four-leaf clovers all around and I just happened to be hearing voices? And so I started on my hands and knees digging through the grass looking for four-leaf clovers, and I didn't find any. I got up realizing I must look utterly insane. As I walked to take my test, I looked through the grass the whole walk and I didn't see any more. And again, looking superstitious, I placed the four-leaf clover down on my desk and took the test. It was a very bad test. Did not do well. When I got home, I told my mother and the guy I was dating at the time what had happened, and I taped up the four-leaf clovers immediately to sheets of any paper I could find in the house because I was scared that I would lose it or it would get crushed or tossed out, and it was from God. I didn't want to throw out anything from God. And I put them in envelopes, one for the guy I was dating, and one for my mom, and one for me. And I gave one to my mom, I gave one to the guy I was dating, and they both gave them back to me. And they said, God gave you this. You hold on to it for me. Well, time went on, and the guy I was dating had made some bad choices. Well, I won't go into his story at all, but a few years later, I went back to where I had the four-leaf clovers kept, and the one for me and the one for my mom looked like I had just plucked it the day before. It looked green and fresh. And the one for the guy that I had been dating had turned black and disintegrated and looked completely dead, like dust. A few years after that, I went back to the place where I had the four-leaf clovers, and the one for the guy was completely gone. The paper that I had it in, the envelope, everything was gone. I don't know what happened to it, but I had them all together. And the scripture came to me about being blotted out of the book of life. I'm not saying that's his final judgment at all. I'm just saying God was sending a clear message with that too, for me. But I have the four-leaf clovers here to show you. So I put dates on them just to remember there were two different dates, but these two are technically from the same day. And they happened around July of 2006 and August of 2006. Well, since that time, I have always been on the lookout for four-leaf clovers, but never found one. I've found four-leaf clover shapes on the ground and like jewelry and things like that that have four-leaf clovers in it, but I have not found a fresh four-leaf clover from the ground. Until a few weeks ago, I was working on a film, Paralyzing Redemption, which if you're watching my channel, you will see more. And I had an awesome experience with one of my friends there, new friends. I had never heard her sing before, and we were in church together. Maybe I'll post that video on here too so you guys can see it. We're gonna be doing worship. And how it happened was she invited me to her church. She invited me to church and we were singing, and then I was like, the whole time I was listening to her, I was like, she's so amazing. Everybody in the world needs to hear her voice.
No, the whole time we were singing worship, I was listening to her, thinking that we had to get her up on stage next week.
And so we had a little afterwards. I was like, oh my goodness, your voice is good. She's like, stop it. Your voice is good. And I was like, no, your voice is good. And I was like, stop it. The next day she messaged me and she was like, hey, do you want to do worship with me? I was like, oh my gosh. So that's what happened.
So fun.
Yeah, so I'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
I heard her sing, she heard me sing just in the congregation, and her voice is awesome. She thought my voice was good enough to invite me to sing worship the following week while I was out there for filming. I loved it. I wanted to do well for God. I wanted to do well for the people. And as I was leaving the church that day, there was a lot that had happened. We didn't get to rehearse as much as I would have loved and dreamed for, just as a series of unfortunate events that took place. We weren't able to do that much rehearsing, and I wondered if I was inadequate, which, you know, that's, I guess, a theme for a lot of people, but that is maybe one of my themes that comes up sometimes. After we sang, the congregation was so sweet to me. They were such sweet people. We were walking to the car, and I didn't realize it, but I guess I was apologizing to God, saying, I'm sorry, I maybe could have done better. And I looked down and there was a 4-leaf clover right by the car door where I was about to get in. Just nothing around it, and just this 4-leaf clover. And it almost looked like a light was just shining on it, like a spotlight. And that's this one. If you guys can see it. It's kind of, this little piece is a little twisted now, but I'll show a picture of when I just found it that day. It meant so much to me because it was a reminder that God was aware of me and my prayers, and I felt like He was thanking me for doing the worship service, for singing for Him, praising Him. It says in the scriptures that the song of the righteous is a prayer unto God. I wanted to leave this message for you guys. I know this is kind of long. I hopefully got a little bit of it out. I feel like God blessed me with that. Not only for me, but if I had a 4-leaf clover to give every one of you, I would. Because I know that we all feel like that sometimes. We all wonder if we're doing enough or good enough, or if God's happy with us and where we stand with Him. And I just want to share with you my witness that God is aware of each and every one of you, of your thoughts and every prayer that you give Him. And He loves when we pray to Him. I want to testify to you that I know that if you reach out to God, He will reach out to you. Don't turn from it. And if you do, it's not too late. When you go back, God's going to be right there, waiting for you, showing you the way. If you seek, you shall find Him. Thanks for watching, guys.